Hey there, guys, and happy Tuesday. I'm very delighted that you are able to join me this evening again. Thank you to all of the viewers, the guests, and the supporters. You know, without you, there would be no Indie Spotlight Philly. So I want to thank you guys. I am your host, Shayrenee, and I want you to take a look at the link in my Instagram bio. There's two links. The first one is to my YouTube page entitled The Indie Spotlight Philly. Like, share, review, comment, and subscribe. You can watch all of the latest and past episodes of The Indie Spotlight Philly. So go right to YouTube, put in The Indie Spotlight Philly in the search engine, and subscribe and join. And enjoy all of the episodes. There's a lot of episodes on there. Also, please check out my podcast entitled The Indie Spotlight Philly. I've uploaded season 1 and the first 20 episodes. I will be uploading the next season, which is season 2, and 20 more episodes in the coming months, hopefully by the end of July or the beginning of August. And you can find that podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and you can also find it on Anchor.fm. But tonight's episode of the Indie Spotlight Philly, Tuesdays, happening on Instagram Live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is a very important one. We have former Pennsylvania representative and gun violence advocate Movita Johnson-Harell. When Movita comes into the room, I will invite her to the camera and we will start the interview. Anybody who has comments, please keep them to a minimum so we do not distract our guests. But you can ask as many questions as you want into the question box below, and I'll try to get back to all of your questions. If you want to inquire within to be a guest on the show, what you can do is you can inbox me. You can always DM me. Okay, so you can always DM me. So let me pin this at the bottom. Okay, guys. Hope you guys are feeling good. Hey there, Mita.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Hey, great. I love your scarf and your glasses. So
Thank
looks
you.
beautiful. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
First, I wanted to tell you, thank you for being so reachable, for me being able to reach out to you, for you being able to participate and do the Indie Spotlight Philly. I want to thank you about that. And I also want to send my condolences to your tremendous loss
Thank you.
of of your two sons, Charles and Dante. Um, so first, I also wanted to ask you was, what part of Philadelphia are you from?
I am from West Philadelphia, 5 generations out of West Philly.
Oh wow, 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 wow. I also wanted to tell you too that I actually named my nephew Dante too.
Wow.
With the A. With the A, yeah. And I think I seen your story. I think I first seen your story on news,
Mhm.
and I was really captivated by it, because I noticed that a lot of families in Philadelphia was so affected by gun violence, even like my family. So like my mother's youngest brother, my uncle, who died before I was born, was a victim of gun violence, and so was my recently, in the end of November 2020, my first cousin's youngest son was tragically murdered, by gun violence. And I just seen the story and I said, I really need to speak with her. So I don't know what you would like to say first, but I also wanted to ask, where can people find you?
So as you know, I'm very easy to find. They can contact me either through first, let me start by saying I'm so sorry about your losses.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so sorry about your losses. Nothing about this is normal.
It's,
And
yeah.
we see the memorials on the street with the balloons and the teddy bears and the candles, and we see RIP on social media, and then we go on about our business with the minimum of concern when families have to live with this tragedy day in and day out. So I need to just take this space and this time to say I am so sorry about your
Thank you.
losses. And if there's anything that me and my family can do to support you and your family, please don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate.
Thank
Um,
you so much
so
for
as
that.
I said, I'm very easy to reach. People can contact me either through the Charles Foundation, which is www.thecharlesfoundation.com, or they can contact me through social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all Movita Johnson-Harell.
Great, great. I see that you also do a lot of different programs.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been working with the state for a nice amount of time, and that's why it's so important for everybody like in the city also to know about like the local councilmen and stuff like that, and their mayors and their district attorneys and stuff. Could you tell me a little bit about like the programs that you do, or the programs or workshops that you do?
Yes, so everything that we do through the Charles Foundation is free of charge to the public. We do not solicit donations. We have a few committed board members who help, but the majority of the things that the Charles Foundation does is out of the pockets of me and my family members. So we do a multitude of things. We have a training and education center. We have a resource center. At 52nd and Wauwatosa, we have a training and education room for about 7 years now, with the exception of the COVID era.
Yeah.
We've done a Be the Change program where we find young people who are identified as those likely to kill or be killed, and we pay them to participate in an 8 to 12 week summer program where they receive mentors, education. We teach them how to do public speaking, and we empower them, right, to be the change that they want to see in their own communities. We do events specifically for child co-victims of homicide. We do 4 events every year, with the exception, of course, of the COVID era, for child co-victims of homicide. And the reason why we do that, Shayrenee, is because I don't know if you know my entire story. I am actually a 5-time co-victim of homicide. My father was murdered in front of my family, March 30th, 1975, Easter Sunday. I was 8 years old. My only brother was murdered on July 1st, 1991. I then lost my son Charles to a case of mistaken identity on January 13th, 2011. 2 years later, my first cousin Deneen, her only child, her son Kyrie, was being a peacemaker at a New Year's party, and the boy turned around and put a gun to his chest and pulled the trigger. And then this past March 5th, my son Dante went on a weekend trip to California and was killed in a random drive-by. So I am actually a 5-time co-victim of homicide. And the reason why I do these events for children, number one, me and my brother and my sister were child victims of homicide, and there was no help for families of color, right? You got all of these victim services now. There was none of this in 1975, and we were left to our own devices to try and heal through that trauma, right? And my mother did the best she could with what she had, but she had already had trauma from her childhood. My father's death created depression, and then she began to self-medicate. So my brother got lost to the system. He was diagnosed because he had behavioral issues, because he had trauma that was not addressed. He wound up in and out of juvenile facilities, then in and out of adult correctional facilities, and then he was murdered over a girl on July 1st, 1991. And the second reason why I do these events for children is because when Charles died, my first grandchild was about to be born, his child. His fiance Charles' baby was born 26 days after Charles died. And then my daughter Charlene had a baby 5 weeks later, and because of this tragedy, we were tasked with helping to co-parent these 2 babies. And we started having these to bring other children in so that others, they can relate to one another, right? In many instances, when they're in their communities or they're with their grandparents or with their parents, they don't know how to have these conversations. But these children, it's been miraculous to watch how these children gravitate toward one another and support one another. They see each other at these events every year, and it's like extended family, which is an additional support for these child co-victims of homicide. And while we wish that they didn't need the support, we know that this support is necessary. We do an annual holiday party every year where we provide toys, food, coats to co-victims of homicide. We do a family and friends day every year where we have moon bounces and water slides and petting zoos and pony rides. And we do a Halloween event where we do a haunted place and the kids can dress up and come out and have a safe event. And we do a New Year's family game night where we bring families who are victims of homicide out to an event space, and we have a family game night and we have food and everything.
Awesome. So I do also want to say sorry for your tremendous amount of loss. And I also want to thank you for your huge bravery and strength.
I can't take the credit. I can't. You know, when it took me almost 40 years to recover from my father's homicide, really. You know, a lot of people know my life is very transparent. I'm in recovery. When my father died, I was 8 years old. I picked up a drink of my own choice to numb the pain that night. You know, and I spent a lot of years in an active addiction, and 26 years ago, I got clean for my children because I wanted to give them a better life than I experienced. So for me to lose Charles, right, I've always been hypervigilant about violence. And for me to lose Charles, it was devastating for me, right? And I can't claim the credit. I have to give God, to give Allah all of the credit, right? For me to be able to get out of bed every day and do this work. And the Charles Foundation was created literally a month after Charles died. And it happened so organically that I know it wasn't nothing but God.
Amen to that. Yes. And do you so can you find the Charles Foundation a website or a page or number where people can find the Charles Foundation?
Easy to find. It's spelled just like it sounds, thecharlesfoundation.com, www.thecharlesfoundation.com. You can call 215-868-9543. And as I said, I am so easily accessible. I'm out on the corner of 52nd and Walousing every Monday. We do a food distribution. We have fed over 150,000 people since May 5th of last year. We actually took over several of the community spaces at 52nd and Walousing because what I do, Shayrenee, is I address the social determinants that lead to gun violence, right? So that's poverty, that's food deserts, that's housing scarcity, that's the lack of jobs, the lack of education, all those things that make young people resort to gun violence, which is nothing but racism, right? If we look at it seriously, it's all around racism, it's all around subjugation, it's all around marginalization. So everything that we do is to address those issues, to empower young people and to empower communities to make better choices.
And that's wonderful. I'm really happy that I was able to get into contact with you and to do a show like this with you, because it's really, really important, especially being from Philadelphia and the things that are constantly going on systematically, racially, like you said, all those things, and especially the youth, like the stuff that you see, like you look on news and every day it's something like a violence going on, and I see people talking about it, but you have people like you that are actually doing something about it, actually making the sacrifice, right? You know? So I'm really happy about that. Do any of your organizations have any up and coming events coming up now soon?
So right now, great time to announce this. If there is someone who is looking for work, we are doing same day work and pay program. So people can come out to 52nd and Wauwatosa next Monday at 10 a.m. If they are interested in working, they get paid the same day that they work. And we are working with the Horticultural Society to do that. We are also planning to do, now that COVID has kind of broken, we are looking forward to doing our Family and Friends Day again. And it'll be in August of this year. And we typically have our annual gala in November, and this will be our 10th annual gala. And, we were kind of hesitant about doing it because Dante is like the MC. Dante has stood on the front line of this issue next to his mother in the gap for his brother and so many other Black men that he knew that he knew personally that died. And I kind of at one point just didn't want to do any of it anymore, right? But that would
Yeah.
not being paid. That would not pay honor to my son. It would not. He would want me out there. He would expect no less of me, but to be out there to continue fighting.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't sure I'm not sure if I was seeing one of the galas when your son Dante was speaking. He was speaking about his brother's foundation. I think he was wearing like it was like this really really sharp orange suit.
Yes.
It had like I was like, wow, that's really I really really liked it. So I was listening to him talk, so I understand what you were saying about that.
He was absolutely beautiful inside and out. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better son. Two better
Yeah.
sons. I had two good sons.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit also about your grandchildren. How are your grandchildren doing?
Yeah, so they're doing well. We actually have them in the Power of Paint art camp with Miss Vanessa and Miss Tisha, and they do pop art, but they do trauma informed education, right? So our grandkids go to camp every day, and they are able to express themselves and deal with whatever issues that they have. But they're doing well, and the saddest part for us is that our grandchildren were born into trauma, right? Because they were born after Charles died. And we've done as much as possible to make sure that they're healthy. They've been in therapy. They go when they want to. So we offered them the option, and they did it for a couple of years. And they said, okay, we don't want to do this anymore right now. And I said, that's quite all right. But they know, and it's important for families who live through this. It's important that you introduce your children to whatever is going to help them to get through the difficulty, right?
Hmm.
And then when they say, no, I don't want that anymore, as long as they're not in crisis, it's okay for them to make those decisions for themselves. So
Right.
right now they're doing pretty well considering. I mean, we're fresh. It's been what, 4 months since we lost contact.
Yeah, yes, yes, I see it. It is really fresh. And I didn't really understand when I kept seeing like a lot of different kept seeing a lot of different gun violence victims, and I kept thinking to myself, I said, how is this affecting their family, their loved ones, their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters? How is this their kids? Like, like how is it affecting them? And I just wanted to speak to someone so that they can talk about how it affects them, how the solutions that they're bringing, programs and things of that sort. I had an interview with CEO John McKay, and he was talking about like treating trauma. He was talking about like it's a lot of unaddressed mental illness. It's a lot of, and I know like a lot of communities really don't talk about that. I see all kinds of communities that really don't talk about the mental issues that lead up to all this violence and all this stuff and all the disparities and stuff like that. So I'm just really happy to have I'm really happy to have this
Yeah.
episode. I'm really happy to talk to you about stuff like this. Do you work with any other so do you work with any other organizations?
We do. So we actually created an organization in West Philadelphia called West Philly Together Civic Association. And that's part of addressing the social determinants to push back against the gentrification that's going on in our community, right? Because people don't realize, they wonder, well, why is there such a rise in violence? Well, look at all the gentrification that's happening in Philadelphia, right? So
Right.
before, there would be boys in South Philly beefing against boys in Southwest, and they had Grays Ferry Bridge in between them. But when they came in and gentrified South Philly, they pushed them boys out, over the bridge.
Hmm.
So now they're on
Hmm.
top of each other, and now they're
Wow.
warring. So now we have a rise in violence, right? So we
Mm.
work with a lot of different organizations. Specifically, we work with an organization called the Sacco and Leroy's Foundation. We work with the Jarrell Christopher Fay Love and Laughter Foundation. We've done some work with Mel Wells in One Day at a Time. We literally work with anybody who will work with us, and we don't need to be out front, right? We just want to do the
Right.
work. And that's real specific for us. We just want to get it done. And you talked about trauma, and it's so important that and I hear a echo. I'm sorry. I don't
Oh,
know.
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, let me see if I
No,
can.
it's okay.
I might be able
If
to.
you
Oh.
can't hear it, we fine. Um, but it's so important that we do trauma informed care with everything that we do with our children, right? And most people don't know I'm a social worker by training. I've done mental health for over 25 years, right? So
Wow.
it's important. Our children are so traumatized, and we just act like it's normal. We act like that what they see every day, like going to school, they have to walk past homicides and crime scenes and all these makeshift memorials, and none of this is normal. But our children internalize all of this, right? And then when they act out, we wonder why. And if you notice the increase in violence, it's showing that the victims and the shooters are getting younger, right? That's trauma.
Right.
And one thing that we know is that hurt people hurt people.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's I definitely have to say amen to that. And it's like in the way that you explain it, like as you see like a timeline on why it led up to why it led up to why it led up to what it led up to, and people are having a lot of mental issues and they're not addressing them, and
Yep.
they're acting out in certain ways, and I'm just like, this looks, and like you said, it's to the point where you see it every day, because my sister was saying like they're keep showing a bunch of gun violence, but what led up to it? And
Right.
that's what you're working on, that's what you're exposing, what led up to, when you start understanding what led up to it and why it's happening, this is a product of this, it becomes more easier. It's like if you didn't address something, then it's just like not addressing a scab or something, or a scab or something, expecting for it to get better, getting better. So I do really thank I think all of the programs that you have, and we also have to be like grateful for all the programs that we have, because I see people saying what's happening, and people have to do this and they have to do that, and I'm like, do you see like all the people that have programs and all of the work that they're doing? It's hard work. It's really really hard work, and I hope when like the state opens up more and they lift more mandates and stuff, that I'll be able to come out and see you, and come to when I have a little time, come out and see you, and come and be at a few events and stuff like that, and you know what
That,
I mean, and
that
stuff
would
like
be
that.
wonderful.
Yeah. 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 Do you have a YouTube? Do you happen to have a YouTube page?
I do. So my YouTube page is actually Phoenix Ascension.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah, which is I actually created it to coincide with my memoir, which will be out later this year.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. And I was about to say, I know you have a really, 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 really good memoir. That'll be something I'll definitely be
Yeah.
sharing my story and sharing and sharing around.
Thank
Um,
you. Actually, this was supposed to come out in spring, in April, and I
okay.
got my final edit right before Dante was killed, and I couldn't even read it, so I had to
Yeah.
put that on the back burner. But this was something that he was really excited about. He was really excited about this project and everything that was coming along with it. You know, people had already been reaching out to me about speaking engagements around the country. So I have to push it out. I have to. This is I'm in labor right now and about to give birth to this whole new project, right?
Wow.
And the one thing for me is that I share so transparently because I know I'm not unique, right? And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of families have suffered a lot of the things that me and my family have suffered, but they don't have a voice or they don't have a platform. And
Mm-hmm.
I want them to know that they are just as important as anybody else, and that if they need help lifting their voice, they have people out here that's willing to help them do that.
Yes, 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 and yes, indeed. So this is so people can they find so they can find you on. Can you tell people if anyone else joined that is new to tell them? Can you tell them where they can find you at?
Yes.
As far as your social media.
Yes. So, well, the Charles Foundation's website, and you can see the work we do on there, is www.thecharlesfoundation.com. All of my social media, Facebook, IG, Twitter, is Movita Johnson-Harell. And my YouTube page is Phoenix Ascension.
Great, great. So and your what am I thinking of? Your foundation, it is it for profit or nonprofit?
It's a nonprofit, but we don't solicit. I mean,
Okay.
people can donate if they like, and I know people do
Hmm.
that because it makes them feel good, right?
Hmm.
And we use the donations. Like we just got a donation from one of my former colleagues, and we were able to get an outside movie theater so that we can do.
Oh.
Yes, it's spectacular, girl. We got a 3 foot movie screen that blows up, and we can do movies out in the park for the community. Sunday, we actually aired Cruella. So,
Oh.
we get some really kind and really generous donations, but we've never depended on that to do the work. For us, it's been we didn't want money to be confused with the work.
Right, right. And I noticed that I do see people like giving to places, and I'm like, I want to see, even if it's not like money donations, but like just donating things like you said, like the movie stuff, or goods and stuff like that, to places and places that really stand for something. And this is an epidemic in Philadelphia,
Yes,
Pennsylvania. We need more stuff like this.
yes.
It's like I don't know one family. I haven't talked to one person who haven't been affected by, who haven't had lost a loved one from gun violence. Not one. Not
You
one.
know
I'm
what?
like,
I said this 10 years ago when Charles
yeah.
said if we don't do something, there's not going to be one family in Philadelphia that has not been affected by gun violence. And here's the thing, like I said, I'm a social worker by trade and training. I'm not a politician. I never wanted to be a politician, but I got
Mm,
tired of sitting in front of politicians. I got tired of
mm,
begging people to help our
mm.
children. That's the only reason why I ran for office.
Yes, yes, yes. So I want to. Was there anything else that you would like to add before I wrap up the interview? If you would like to say anything.
So I want to apologize, right, to the city of Philadelphia for the lack of investment in our children from the people who look like us,
Mm,
right? And it's never going to change unless we change it. The one thing I did when I ran for office, and I know now a lot of people are scared to run because they came for me, and I knew they was coming for me. And here's the thing: I trust in the law. I know everything that's happened is supposed to have happened, but we have to take responsibility for our community. We have to take responsibility for our children. Nobody's going to ride in on a white horse and fix the situation for us. We have to fix
mm,
it for ourselves. People like you, everyday people, need to be unseating these people who don't care about us. They need to be running for office, taking these seats from these people who just sit there forever and get a check and don't do nothing to fix this problem. If you're not a part of the solution, then you are a part of the problem. If you see a young person that needs help, help them. Don't be afraid of them. They're all our children. None of them
mm,
are
mm.
disposable, right? So we
Right.
have to get in front of this. And lastly, if you see something, say something. There is a certain percentage of these people who should be in jail, who should be in jail for a very long time. If they shot once, they're going to shoot again if we don't put them in jail.
Yes. I definitely agree with that, because there's a lot of people. There's like people that are plotting. There's people that plot people. There's people that help orchestrate stuff like this,
Yep.
and people do have to. They do have to start getting that together. And that is true. We do have to help our own. We do have to help our own community, and we do have to start, because I noticed that everybody else comes in after you did almost 95% of the work, and then throw 5% of the work in, and then try
Yeah.
to take the credit.
How about that?
Try to take credit. But I'm like, the people that the organizations that you run, the things that John McKay runs, those type of things are like, foot soldiers who are actually out there doing it in the streets. And I was actually, that's what, like, when I started, I actually have a few family members that have that are Muslim.
Hmm.
And I was looking at it the beginning. I was looking at the beginning when everyone when parts of the Nation Islam was going and talking to people on the street, and that's how they were doing it. And they were out there. So I really want to thank you, Movita, for coming on. I want to thank everybody for watching. And I also want everyone to go to my YouTube, the Indie Spotlight Philly. And what's your YouTube again?
My YouTube is actually capital Movita, Movita, Phoenix Ascension.
Thank you so much, Movita. I hope you have a great evening, and I hope everybody else has a great evening. Good night,
Thank you so much for including me. I really appreciate you.
everyone. Me too. Thank you. Okay.